Hahn from Hahn Attorneys joins us here on eRadio for yet another edition of Legal Talk, and today discussing the so-called clawback clause contained in the Medical Schemes Act 131 of 1998 and the implementation thereof by medical schemes. Jaco, welcome back to Legal Talk. Are you well?
Hi, Ian. Thank you. Yeah, nice to be back. All well, thanks. And yourself?
All good, thank you. So, what is this so-called clawback clause contained in the Medical Schemes Act?
Now, this clause actually refers to Section 59 of the Medical Schemes Act, but I don't want to be too legalistic and lose our listeners. So, I'm gonna put it in a plain language, like I say. So, this section determines that a medical scheme has to, within 30 days of receiving an invoice, either now from the doctor or the member, pay that invoice. Now, one has to remember that in certain instances you'll have a doctor that you can go to, and that doctor will tell you he'll send his invoice directly to the medical aid. Or you'll have other doctors or other medical practitioners that says, sorry, if you want to claim from your medical aid, you have to do that directly. Now, this section says that if that medical aid now receives that invoice, that medical aid has to pay that invoice within 30 days, either then to the member, which will now be you, the patient, directly if you submitted it, or to the doctor. Now, the medical aid says that the challenge that they've got with this 30 days period is that it's very short, and they don't have the manpower then to check whether these invoices that they've now received is legit or not. So then what they will do is they will pay that invoice in the bona fide belief, in other words, just to say, well, okay, I don't know yet, but I will pay it so long because I have to be within that 30 days. Now, this clawback clause, that's now that section 59 that we were referring to, 59.3 specifically, says that if the medical aid paid that invoice and then later realizes that they shouldn't have paid that amount, and then they can claw back that amount from the medical practitioner. Now, in theory, this process sounds to be fair. It says, well, okay, surely then that should happen. But in practice, the process followed by the medical schemes is anything but fair. Now, it's important to remember that you as the patient is receiving the service from the doctor. So therefore, you have a contract with the doctor. Now, like we've said in the past, a contract doesn't necessarily mean it's a written contract. It can be verbal or by implication. You go to the doctor, he says his fee is X amount per hour or per session. You see that, and by implication, you agree to that, even if you haven't completed the thing. So that's a contract between you and the doctor for that service. Now, because you have a medical aid, the medical aid says, okay, but you don't have to pay for the doctor. I'll pay the doctor on your behalf. The doctor then in turn says that, okay, that invoice of his, instead of giving it to you to pay, he'll send it on your behalf to the medical aid, so you don't have to. So the doctor almost acts as an intermediary, if you'd like, on your behalf. So one just needs to remember that.
Okay, and obviously this is the reason that you posted the question on your social media page. And what is the answer to the question that you posted on the social media page, Jaco?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And to remind everybody, the question was just, your medical aid said it overpaid your doctor 3 years ago. The doctor then has to repay them. Now, the question is then, can your doctor claim the money back from you? Now, like anything and everything in life, we first need to place some context to the scenario given in the question. So let's say that your medical aid only covers a certain type of treatment to a certain extent, and that in order for the doctor or then any other medical practitioner to claim that payment from your medical aid, that medical practitioner or doctor must use a certain code when claiming the money back from the medical aid. Now, the doctor on all his other similar patients, let's say, use the same code for the medical aid for the same service. And the medical aid then pays according to that code. Now, the doctor has requested previously whether the code he's using is the correct code, but unfortunately didn't receive any response from the medical aid, so he keeps on using that code. Now, 2.5 years later, the medical aid says to your doctor that the code he was using is wrong, as that code is for a similar treatment but not the same. And as a result of that, they shouldn't have paid. Now, in essence, this now comes to a question of interpretation of which code has been used. The medical aid, however, informs your doctor that unless he agrees with their interpretation, they will no longer pay him directly going forward. Now, the doctor is devastated as his practice won't survive on cash patients. So he agrees. He says, well, okay, that's fine. If you're telling me the code is long, as long as you don't stop me getting the money for my patients from you, I'll continue. Because there's a lot of areas and a lot of people that don't have the cash flow to pay the doctor every time, and that's why they've got a medical aid. So in practice, what would happen is if your doctor always sent his invoice on your behalf to the medical aid and got payment, and now suddenly he changes. If you don't have the cash flow, then you're no longer going to go to that doctor. And this is now where the massive challenge comes in for that doctor. He can't now suddenly change his practice because all his patients knows him for it. So what does the doctor do? He says, okay, fine, I'll agree with your interpretation, and I'll now pay the money back. That being said, and this is now where it comes to the question, remember that doctor delivered the service to you as a patient, and now he hasn't been paid for that service that is rendered to you because he has to pay that money back to the medical aid. Now, if the doctor rendered the service but didn't get money, but he's entitled to the money, so he can technically go after you for that. The prescription is 3 years, which some of the people incorrectly so on the social media page said it's 3 years. So if the doctor claims the money back, and if needs be issues and serve a summons on you before the 3rd anniversary on the day that you had to pay the doctor, so that day that your obligation to pay him, now let's say for argument's sake, normally it would be on the day that the services was rendered. Other times the doctor would say my accounts is payable within 7 days of service being rendered. So on just before the 3rd year, the 3rd anniversary of that day, he has to issue and serve summons on you. Then he can claim back the money from you. Then you have to pay you. Now, in practice, I mean, because we assist a lot of medical practitioners with these sort of clawback claims from the medical schemes. They don't do it. I haven't seen that. But in theory, they are well within their rights to do that. So, and next week we will discuss a bit more about the unfair treatment of these medical practitioners and doctors.
And there you have it, mystery solved. Jaco, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, Ian. Always nice talking to you.
Likewise. And then next week we'll continue our discussion here on Legal Talk with Hahn and Hahn attorneys.
Are you or your business in trouble and struggling to find a solution? Call Hahn and Hahn Attorneys as we assist clients in finding solutions. We specialize in consumer and food law, commercial and construction law, forensic investigations and administrative law. Visit hahnlaw.co.za. That's HAHN. We assist clients nationwide. Hahn and Hahn Attorneys, because we care. Don't miss Legal Talk with Hahn and Hahn Attorneys, Wednesday mornings at 10 on eRadio.